Chapter 2956. My apologies, my master has ordered that he will not be seeing any guests. Lang Hua smiled apologetically at them as he spoke. Young Master Lang, to tell you the truth, I'm here to ask for a pill. Elder Jiang looked at him and directly stated the purpose of his visit. I don't have much time left in my lifespan. I can see that my lifespan is about to end, but I have no other choice. A level 6 origin breaker pill can help me survive this crisis. So, please pass on my message to your mansion master. No matter what conditions your mansion master offers, I will accept them. I only hope that he can give me a level 6 origin breaker pill. Hearing this, Lang Hua glanced at him and said, "All right, I will tell my master." Hearing him agree, the two of them did not let out a sigh of relief. Instead, their hearts were in their throats. He had agreed too easily, as if he did not take it to heart. Elder Jiang took a deep breath and asked, "Young Master Lang, can you tell me what are my chances of getting a spirit breaker pill?" Because he knew that this young man was not an ordinary follower, he had been very humble from the start. At this moment, the two did not even know that Lang Hua standing in front of them was not inferior to them at all. Hearing this, Lang Hua looked deeply at the old man and said warmly, "That's hard to say." The two looked at each other and the old man asked again, "Then what are our chances of meeting your master?" Lang Hua smiled and said, "My master will not be seeing any guests." The old man could not help but feel anxious. He wanted to ask for a pill but did not know if he could get one, and he wanted to meet the master in person but could not. Didn't this mean that there was no chance at all? "This way, please." Lang Hua nodded slightly and took a step back and closed the door. Looking at the closed door, Elder Jiang's face was full of worry. What should we do? Qiu Qinghai smelled the faint medicinal fragrance in the air and said, "Back in the city in the sky, I could tell that the woman in red had a strange temper. It's normal that she won't see any guests. Let's think of another way. This is the only way now. But what else can we think of?" Elder Jiang sighed helplessly. The people in this mansion are not simple. Qiu Qinghai clasped his hands behind his back and said, "Look, there's a barrier around the mansion. Even if we try to break in, we probably won't be able to." The two stood outside the mansion for a while before turning to leave. In the mansion, after Feng Jiu entered the alchemy room, she didn't step out for several days. During these days, almost all the families and forces in Four Square City came to send gifts. Even the Jiang family sent people over. In the end, because there were too many people, Lang Hua had to put up a "closed door, no visitors" sign outside the door. Only then did things quiet down. At the same time, the people from the various aristocratic families in Four Corner City were also awakened by the thunder. They all jumped onto the roofs of their houses and looked into the distance to see what was going on. Chapter 2957. The place where the heavenly lightning struck was the residence that they had been trying to visit, but had not been able to enter. Seeing this situation, the people from the nearby clans all rushed towards the residence. At the same time, Lang Hua and the others were also on high alert because of the heavenly lightning. They and their contracted beasts stood guard at various places in the residence. When they heard the sound of the 3 bolts of pill lightning, they knew that their master had successfully refined this batch of pills. In the pill refinery courtyard, Fengjiu opened the lid of the pill furnace and looked at the pills inside with a smile. The 9 transformations golden pill's efficacy has increased by several times after adding the 1,000-year snow Ganoderma. This time, there are actually so many pills. What a surprise! The more precious a pill was, the more ancient the method of preserving it. She immediately sealed the 9 transformations golden pill and stored it away. She planned to give one to CK when the time came. After all, if it wasn't for his 1,000-year snow Ganoderma, she wouldn't have been able to refine this purer 9 transformations golden pill. However, just as she put away the pills and walked out of the pill room, she saw over 20 figures rushing towards her from the gradually brightening sky. They gathered their spiritual energy and tried to break the barrier she had set up. Seeing this scene, she raised her eyebrows. What were they trying to do? Were they trying to steal her pills? The people guarding the other places quickly rushed over. Seeing that they had all arrived, Fengjiu glanced at them and said, "These people will be your practice." As soon as she finished speaking, she flicked her sleeve, and a stream of spirit energy shot up, opening a hole in the barrier. When the black-robed men saw this, they raised their heads and laughed. "Fengjiu, you're courting death." That person laughed, and together with the other two people beside him, they broke the barrier. With a loud bang, a stream of spiritual energy spread out as the barrier was broken. Seeing this scene, Fengjiu narrowed her eyes. Divine Realm practitioners. The three people in the lead were actually Divine Realm practitioners. Where did these three Divine Realm practitioners come from? Kill the others. Capture Fengjiu alive. A cold and gloomy voice rang out. The 20 or so black-clothed men replied in a deep voice, "Yes. That will depend on your abilities." Fengjiu coldly snorted. With a flick of his sleeve, a sharp air current shot out and struck the bodies of several black-clothed men. The black-clothed men who rushed forward were fiercely thrown back. The powerful hidden energy caused the blood in their bodies to surge, causing them to spit out mouthfuls of blood. However, before they could stand up, their bodies twitched, and black poisonous blood flowed out from the corners of their mouths. Their eyes rolled back, and they died. Hiss. You used poison. The three leaders sucked in a breath of cold air. Several black-clothed men were killed by her just like that. While they were shocked, it also made them even more determined. This Fengjiu must be captured alive. Fengjiu smirked. So what if I use poison? If you can't hide from me, only death awaits you. As soon as her cold voice resounded, her clear eyes narrowed, and her gaze descended onto one of the Divine Realm practitioners. In the next moment, her figure flashed out. On the other hand, Leng Hua's group, Tun Yun, Senior Bai, and the others were dealing with the other black-clothed men. Hui Lang had joined them as well. As for Leng Hua and Ning Yi, they were protecting little Hao in the backyard and didn't come here. Chapter 29:58. Seeing that the Shao clan's people had entered to help, the other clans didn't move. The three heavenly gods were in the lead, and the black-clothed men weren't weak either. If they suddenly went forward, there would be countless casualties. However, Elder Jiang and Qiu Qinghai, who had been paying attention, rushed over and saw many black-clothed men besieging the mansion. Elder Jiang's eyes lit up, and he immediately wanted to go forward. "What are you doing?" Qiu Qinghai hurriedly pulled him back, and said in a low voice, "Don't you see how strong those people are? They're all stronger than us. You're not helping, you're courting death." Elder Jiang's eyes lit up, and he said, "I'm not courting death, I'm trying to find a way to survive." With that, he pushed Qiu Qinghai away, and with a tap of his foot, he charged into the mansion as well. This old Jiang. Qiu Qinghai sighed helplessly. Elder Jiang was an old friend of many years, so he naturally couldn't just watch him throw his life away. At that moment, he didn't have time to think any further, and hurriedly followed in, "Wait for me." Seeing two more people enter, the others couldn't help but be stunned. Were those two tired of living? They actually dared to get involved in a battle between such experts. Yuan He's eyes flickered at this scene, and he lowered his voice to his father, "Father, if you want to make friends with them, this is a chance." Hearing this, Patriarch Yuan frowned. "How could I not know that this is a chance? However, do you know how high the price will be? 3 heavenly gods and those black-clothed men. Only the main figures of their clans had the strength to resist such a force. Moreover, they might not even survive the battle." Everyone present knew this, but it was precisely because of the risks involved that they didn't dare to take this risk. As for the Shao clan, their main ancestor was the immortal sex Venerable CK, and Venerable CK was Fengzhou's disciple, so they couldn't just stand by and watch. However, it was different for the others. Even if they knew that this was a chance to make friends, no one was willing to risk losing the main pillar of their clan to help them. Hearing his father's words, He sighed in his heart. He watched from afar and listened to the sounds of battle. They could only hear the sounds of swords clashing inside, as well as the miserable screams. However, due to the high walls of the mansion, they were unable to clearly see what was happening inside. In the manor, Fengzhou glanced at the two people who rushed in. Seeing that they were the two people he saw in Sky City, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Seeing the two of them working together to fight the enemy, he also focused on dealing with one of the heavenly gods. When she saw the sharp sword in the hand of another heaven god stabbing into Gumo's back, a cold glint flashed in her eyes. She instantly attacked with the Qingfeng sword in her hand. Swish! Hiss! The sharp sword aura slashed past. The heaven god cultivator who thought he would kill Gumo couldn't dodge in time. His sword hand was chopped off by Fengzhou's sword aura. In an instant, the severed arm and the sword fell to the ground and rolled twice. Blood splattered all over the ground. Fengzhou! The man gritted his teeth and roared in anger. He quickly sealed his acupoints and retreated. His cold gaze was like a venomous snake's as he stared at Fengzhou. He looked like he wanted to eat her flesh and drink her blood. Chapter 29:59. Her figure flashed, and at the same time, she raised her sword and pointed it at the heavenly god cultivator whose hand she had cut off. A sharp killing intent was instantly released from her body, and with her extremely fast speed and strange movement technique, she appeared behind the heavenly god cultivator in a breath's time. The long sword in her hand slit his throat, and when blood spurted out, his body stiffened. Killing you is as easy as pie. As soon as Fengzhou's voice fell, she pulled out the long sword in her hand. The long sword immediately swept across the man's neck, cutting open the wound and taking his life. Bang! Hiss! You actually killed him. When the other two celestial gods saw this, their faces turned pale. They didn't expect that a celestial god realm expert would be killed so easily in her hands. One should know that even in Four Corner City, celestial god realm experts were already top-notch existences. However, they were killed just like that. Chi! Fengzhou sneered, and waved the long sword in her hand. Sword Chi shot out, hitting a black-robed man. With a muffled groan, the black-robed man also fell to the ground. Do you think I have to spare the lives of those who attack me? Her lips curled into a smile, and her clear eyes stared at them, saying, Since you've come, don't even think about leaving. Inexplicably, hearing these words, the two of them were shocked. If she had said these words before, they would definitely have raised their heads and laughed, laughing at her overestimation of her strength, laughing at her arrogance. But now, seeing her take the life of a heavenly god cultivator in a few breaths' time, this kind of strength was already strong enough to make them wary. They were all heavenly gods, and when they received the order, they thought that the people around her were not strong enough, and that she could take their lives with a flick of a finger. And this Fengzhou and Xianyuan Mose, even if they were heavenly gods, there were three of them. As long as the three of them worked together, they would definitely be able to take them down. But who would have thought that tonight's surprise attack, without even seeing Xianyuan Mose, would cause them to suffer heavy casualties just by Fengzhou alone? On the other hand, none of the people they had originally thought highly of were able to kill them. Seeing that the situation was becoming more and more unfavorable for them, the two celestial cultivators signaled with their eyes and prepared to retreat. However, at that moment, Xianyuan Mose, dressed in a black robe and with a cold expression, appeared in the air and blocked their path of retreat. Seeing Xianyuan Mose come out, Fengzhou glanced at him and said, "One for each of us." As soon as she finished speaking, her figure shot out and attacked one of the heavenly gods. At the same time, Xianyuanmo's condensed a stream of air in his hand. His black figure flashed and shot out like a ghost. An overwhelming killing intent spread out. The powerful killing intent and terrifying pressure instantly enveloped them, causing their hearts to tremble. Shock and fear appeared in their eyes. It was also at the moment when the two of them struck down that the two heavenly gods finally crushed their life-saving magic treasures. They instantly turned into streaks of light and disappeared into the air. They did not even care about the lives of the remaining black-robed men and fled for their lives. Seeing that her attack missed, Fengjiu was slightly stunned. They actually escaped. Xianyuanmo waved his hand and dispersed the stream of air. He came to her side and said, "Cultivators at that level would more or less have life-saving treasures on them. It's not strange for them to escape." As he spoke, he looked at her and asked, "How are you? Are you hurt?" Chapter 2960. I'm not injured. I just came out from refining pills and was wearing casual clothes. I haven't changed in a few days, so I'm a little dirty. She smiled and didn't care about her appearance. Instead, she turned to look at the others. Rest for a while, Xianyuanmo said. He asked her to stand aside and rest for a while he went forward to help deal with the remaining black-clothed men. With his heavenly god-level strength, it didn't take long for the black-clothed men to die at his hands. When he saw the strangers, his eyes moved slightly. Shao Jitao greets the ancestor. Shao family head saw him looking over and hurriedly led the four people behind him to bow. Even though they were all injured, they didn't dare to show any disrespect in front of Xianyuanmo. This was the master of their old ancestor. Even their old ancestor had to be respectful in this place. They naturally did not dare to be disrespectful in the slightest. Originally, they didn't know the origins of these two people, so they called them young masters. Now that they knew who they were, they naturally didn't dare to call them young masters. Instead, they called them ancestor. Hearing this, Xianyuanmo's eyes moved slightly. He asked in a deep voice, "You're CK's clansman?" In reply to the ancestral master, "We are from the branch family and have never seen the ancestral master before. However, the ancestral master has instructed us to take care of the two ancestral masters in the city," the Shao family head said respectfully. Hearing this, Xianyuanmo nodded slightly and said, "You're very considerate. Treat your wounds first." Hearing this, the Shao family members were delighted. They hurriedly agreed and retreated to the side. "Why are the two of you here?" Xianyuanmo's gaze fell on Elder Jiang and Qiu Qinghai. The Shao family members had come to help because they had connections. However, these two people didn't know them at all. How could they get involved? Elder Jiang's mouth moved. Just as he was thinking about what to say, he saw Fengjiu walk over. "Everyone is injured. Let's rest first." Fengjiu looked at the two of them as he spoke. He glanced at the corpses on the ground and looked at Leng Hua and the others. Although they were not seriously injured, they were more or less lightly injured. He said, "Leng Hua, clean up the corpses and check if there are any clues." "Yes." Leng Hua nodded and checked the corpse with Luo Yu and the others. They took everything from the corpse and disposed of it. As the sky gradually brightened, the first ray of sunlight shone into the mansion through the shade of the trees. When the cultivators from the various clans saw that the commotion had calmed down, they couldn't help but have the urge to go in and take a look. Who killed who? Are Fengjiu and Xianyuanmo still alive? Were the people who rushed in still alive? For a moment, they all had these questions in their minds. However, they didn't dare to go forward to investigate. Instead, the heads of the various clans went back first, leaving one or two people behind to inquire about the situation. Yuan he couldn't hear what was going on inside, but he felt that Fengjiu and Xianyuanmo must be safe. Those people shouldn't be able to do anything to them. However, Because his father didn't dare to take the risk, the Yuan family missed the opportunity to make friends with them. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This kind of opportunity won't come again in the future. He shouldn't have missed it. Chapter 2961. Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mose, who had bathed and changed into clean red clothes, sat on the main seat. Below them were the 4 members of the Shao family, as well as Elder Jiang and Qiu Qinghai. Due to the status of the two on the main seat, the 4 members of the Shao family didn't dare to relax even though they were sitting in the hall. Instead, they tensed up their bodies nervously and sat up straight. Elder Jiang was so nervous that he occasionally lifted his sleeve to wipe the sweat on his forehead. Compared to the members of the Shao family, he was nervous and worried because this was related to whether he could survive or not. Qiu Qinghai could be said to be the most indifferent among them. He sat there as if he couldn't sit still. Sometimes, he would take a sip of tea and play with the teacup in his hand. Then, he would look at the members of the Shao family sitting opposite him. Previously, he heard them call the two on the main seat their ancestors. Ancestors. These 2 people in the Shao family. He lowered his eyes and played with the teacup in his hand. He sat there quietly and listened. After taking a sip of tea, Fengjiu glanced at Elder Jiang and said, "You want the spirit-breaking pill?" Hearing this, Elder Jiang was stunned. Qiu Qinghai also looked up instinctively. The members of the Shao family sitting opposite him also looked at Elder Jiang in astonishment. Spirit-breaking pill. It turned out that this old man had an ulterior motive for helping. No. Elder Jiang hurriedly said, "I want the spirit-breaking pill, but I don't want to use this opportunity to ask for the pill. It's because I can't even see you once, so I want to take this opportunity to see you again so that I can ask for the pill from you." As he spoke, he continued, "I have old injuries on my body, and my strength has regressed. Now that my lifespan is nearing its end, I know that if I can't avoid this calamity, I will definitely die in a year's time. That's why I wanted to help." Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled. This should be the truth. "I don't dare to deceive you," Elder Jiang hurriedly said. "There are more than 1 people who want the spirit-breaking pill. Tell me, why should I give you the spirit-breaking pill? Is it just because of your help today?" Fengjiu asked, staring at him. "I don't dare." Elder Jiang stood up and solemnly said, "I only want to see Miss and let Miss know that I'm sincerely here to ask for the pill. Moreover, as long as Miss gives me the conditions, I'll do my best to fulfill them." Hearing this, Fengjiu leaned back and looked at him. Langhua. Langhua stepped forward, took out a list from his sleeve, and handed it to Elder Jiang, then retreated to the side. "If you can gather all the items on this list within a year, you can bring them over to exchange for a level 6 Yuan breakthrough pill," Fengjiu said unhurriedly, lowering his eyes to drink his tea. Hearing those words, Elder Jiang was overjoyed. He hurriedly lowered his head to take a look. Upon taking a look, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. The things on it were no ordinary things. It would not be easy to find them. Qiu Qinghai leaned forward to take a look, and then said to Elder Jiang, "This is finally a chance for survival, don't worry. I'll help find them. The 2 of you, please go ahead. I still have things to take care of here." Chapter 2962. After Langhua sent the 2 of them out, he said, "Master, they've already left." Fengjiu replied. He looked at the Shao family members and said, "Master Shao." "Yes, Master Shao." Master Shao hurriedly stood up and replied respectfully. "I'll find an opportunity to tell CK about your help," Fengjiu said slowly. Master Shao smiled when he heard this. He hurriedly said, "Since the old ancestor has instructed us, we wouldn't dare to make any mistakes. Furthermore, this is what we should do. Ancestral Master, you don't have to take it to heart. You're also injured. Go back early. Take care of your bodies. If there's anything you can't handle in the future, you can come to the manor to report. Thank you, Ancestral Master. Master Xiao thanked him happily. Thank you, Ancestral Master. The others hurriedly stood up and thanked him. Lang Hua, send them out. Fengjiu gestured. Yes, Master, Lang Hua replied and gestured for them to leave. After they left, Fengjiu asked, How are and the others? Don't worry, Master. The little master is being protected by Lang Hua and Ning Yi. He's very safe, Du Fan replied. Fengjiu nodded when he heard this. He glanced at them and saw that they were all injured. He said, You're all dismissed. Yes, Master, they bowed and left. Only Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mose were left in the hole. You said you were going to cultivate in seclusion. Why did you come out when you heard the commotion? Fengjiu held Xianyuan Mose's hand and asked with a smile. The commotion caused by your alchemy was so big that I knew it would attract a lot of people. I was worried that I wouldn't be in the mood to cultivate, so I came out to take a look. He paused for a moment before continuing, We've only just arrived here, so we haven't made any enemies yet. Who could these people be? 3 heavenly deity cultivators. Clearly, they are not from an ordinary power. Also, they said that they want to capture me alive. They must have taken a liking to my pill concoction technique. It's really hard to guess. She sighed and said, In short, we have to be more careful in the future. Xianyuan Mose looked at her and said worriedly, Then you have to be more careful. Don't let others take advantage of you. Yes, I know. She chuckled and asked, Are you still going back to the back mountain to cultivate? Take it slow. There's no hurry. He was so worried that he couldn't concentrate on his cultivation. Although he knew that she could handle it, he couldn't relax when he thought about how he wasn't by her side when she was in danger. That's right, CK gave me 1,000-year snow Ganoderma last time. I used it to mix into the 9 transformations golden pill. Now that I've refined it, the medicinal effects are even purer and better than before. As she spoke, she took out a pill sealed in a thick layer of Ganoderma from her space. Keep this one. Xianyuan Mose glanced at it and said, I still have the one you gave me last time. Fengjiu rolled his eyes. You can keep it even if you still have it. This is called just in case. It's never wrong to have a few more on you. Seeing this, Xianyuan Mose kept the pill. He saw that she had dark circles under her eyes and a trace of fatigue on her face. He said, You haven't slept in days refining pills, right? Quickly go and rest. I'll get the kitchen to prepare some of your favorite food. You can eat it when you wake up. Alright, then you can go and see how, later. I'll go and rest first. She stood up and stretched her neck before walking out. Chapter 2963. Not long after they found out that the Shao clan had returned home safely, they also found out that the black-clothed men who had attacked them this morning were all killed without leaving a single survivor. As for the 3 enlightened realm cultivators who had led the group, one of them had died, while the other 2 had escaped. When they received this result, they were all speechless. They increasingly felt that Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mose were mysterious and powerful. 3 enlightened realm cultivators and more than 20 black-clothed men were actually unable to do anything to them. Who would dare to scheme against them with such a battle prowess? 2 days later, Fengjiu called everyone to the hole. His gaze swept past everyone and landed on by Qingqing. Qingqing, pack your things. In 2 days, we will set off for one of the 4 great sects, the Lu Xian sect, to participate in the disciple assessment. Hearing this, Bai Qingqing was startled. She could not help but feel anxious, but Qingqing wants to stay by your side. Moreover, if I cultivate by your side, it will definitely not be any worse than entering the Lu Xian sect. Feng Jiu smiled and said, Don't be in such a hurry. Let me finish. She looked at her and said, "The four-corner city we are in right now is located in the eastern region. In this region, there are the four great immortal sects and four great sects. I've already mentioned the four great immortal sects to you. They are the four sects that competed in the last competition. The strength of the four great sects is not inferior to the four great immortal sects. The system of the sects is different from that of the other sections. There are also many hidden experts. I helped you choose the Lu Xian sect because this sect's cultivation method is most suitable for you to cultivate. If you follow me, I can only give you a few pointers. However, it will be different if you go to the Lu Xian sect. Every year, they will have a secret realm to train. That is a place where one's opportunities depend on one's luck. I also saw this point, which is why I let you go to the Lu Xian sect for the assessment. With your strength and talent, you will definitely be able to stand out in there. When the time comes, if there is a secret realm to train, you must do your best to fight for it. Who knows, you might have a great opportunity." Hearing this, Bai Qingqing bit her lips and replied softly, "Yes, Qingqing will listen to Master's arrangements." Master had schemed every step of the way, but it was all for them. How could she disappoint her? "You've only been by my side for a short period of time, but in the past 1 or 2 years, your temperament has become much more stable. You can deal with things outside by yourself. If there are any problems or troubles that you can't solve in the future, you can come back to us for help," Feng Jiu explained. At the same time, he handed her a spatial ring. "There's something I've prepared for you. You can keep it." "Thank you, Master." She stepped forward and received it respectfully. She held it tightly in her hands. She knew that she would not be able to see them for a while. "As for the others, you've just advanced on the immortal ascension stairs. You won't be able to advance any further in a short period of time. However, during this period of time, you can stabilize your strength. The few of you can form a small mercenary team at the Mercenary Guild in Four Corner City. You can go on missions to improve your combat strength and adaptability." Hearing this, everyone looked at each other. "Master, are we all going?" Hearing this, it seemed that Master and the Yama Lord would not be going. Only the few of them would be going. Chapter 2964. Luo Yu glanced at them and calculated before he said, "So in this way, it's me, Du Fan, Fan Lin, Gu Mo, and Wei Feng. If we add Hui Lang, it'll be 6 people? 6 people in a small mercenary group. Yes, you're all experienced. Here, you're all in a small group, so it shouldn't be a big problem for you," Feng Jiu said. He looked at them and said, "Let's arrange things like this for now. Go and prepare yourselves. Also, Qingqing, when you're leaving, don't let anyone see you leave from this residence. Otherwise, you'll be targeted," Feng Jiu instructed. "Yes, Master, don't worry. I understand," Bai Qingqing replied. "Hui Lang, are you going?" They looked at Hui Lang and asked. Hui Lang scratched his head and asked, "When are we going?" "The carriage I ordered needs to be checked in 2 days. Later, we'll go to the Mercenary Association to take a look. After registering, we'll accept a mission and leave. If you don't want to go, you can leave," Luo Yu said. Hui Lang thought for a moment and said, "It doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with staying. How about this? I'll ask if the carriage is ready and ask them to hurry up. Then, I'll go with you. With Master and the Ghost Doctor here, nothing will happen. There's no need to worry too much." Thus, after discussing, they went their separate ways. Du Fan and the others went to the Mercenary Association to register a mercenary group. Hui Lang went to see when the carriage would be ready. Bai Qingqing was also preparing to leave for the Lu Xian sect. Ling Hua continued to observe all the big and small matters in the manor, while Ling Shuang took Hao with her. Seeing that Feng Jiu had arranged everything, Xianyuan Mose went to the cave in the back of the mountain to cultivate in seclusion. Feng Jiu, who was idling in the residence, flipped through medical books and researched medicine. A day passed in the blink of an eye. The next day, Hui Lang arrived at Feng Jiu courtyard and called out, "Ghost Doctor, the carriage can be retrieved today. Do you want to come with us to take a look? If there's anything you're not satisfied with, you can ask them to change their defeat." Feng Jiu was mixing the medicine. He wrapped the medicine and handed it to Bai Qingqing. "Keep some for yourself and give the rest to Luo Yu and the others. Tell them the use of these medicine." "Yes." Bai Qingqing replied before she walked out. Feng Jiu looked at Hui Lang, stood up, and flicked his robe. "That's fine. I've been staying in the mansion for the past few days and haven't gone out at all. Let's go take a look around." "Shall we leave now?" Hui Lang asked. "Call Ling Shuang and ask her to bring Hao-Er along. We'll go shopping and buy some things." She smiled and walked out. Hui Lang hurriedly followed. Including the carriage that had been scratched on the street last time, the carriage that the family had sent as compensation, and the one that they were going to retrieve now, they had 3 carriages. Thus, Feng Jiu let Hui Lang drive the one that had been scratched and planned to sell this one on the way back. When they arrived at the place where Hui Lang had ordered the carriage, they stopped in front of the door. Feng Jiu took a look and was slightly surprised. There's such a large carriage custom-made shop in the city. Chapter 2965. Upon hearing this, Feng Jiu smiled and said, "Then I'll have to go in and take a look." A man inside saw Hui Lang and greeted him with a smile. "Young master, are you here to pick up the goods?" "I brought my wife here to take a look." "I'll pick up the carriage later," Hui Lang said as he grinned at Feng Jiu. "Madam, please come in." Ling Shuang followed behind with her child in her arms. When she heard Hui Lang call Feng Jiu "Madam," she couldn't help but smile. Feng Jiu only glanced at Hui Lang before walking in. The man let them in and said with a smile, "Madam, what would you like to see? Our weapons are all placed separately. I can bring you around to see if there's anything suitable. Then let's take a look first." "We'll talk about it when we see something suitable," Feng Jiu said as she walked in slowly. The man looked at Feng Jiu and introduced with a smile, "Madam, please take a look. These are the finished products that some customers brought over and asked our weaponsmiths to make. They're still here and haven't been taken away. For example, the styles and swords of these weapons can be modified according to your preferences. Like this one. This hairpin looks ordinary, but it's actually an offensive magic weapon. And this boat is a defensive flying device." As the man introduced her, he pondered. Could this woman in red be the one who had been secretly rumored recently? He looked at her in his heart, but he didn't dare to be too presumptuous. "We won't look at the rest. Where are the ones that you can sell?" Feng Jiu stopped and asked. Madam, they're here. Please come with me." The man smiled and led them to the other side. "The weapons here are all made by our weaponsmiths. We have all kinds of weapons. Madam, please take a look and see if there's anything you like." The man smiled and said, "Our weaponsmiths are distributed in various cities and towns. This square city is only one of our distribution points. Our weaponsmiths are all first class, so the weapons they make are naturally extraordinary. As long as Madam likes it, you won't go wrong if you buy it." Feng Jiu picked up a dagger and looked at it. She saw that the dagger's jacket was exquisitely carved and was inlaid with a few gems. It was very gorgeous. She lifted the cover of the dagger and looked at it. A sharp cold light flashed and a trace of icy aura spread out. "Good dagger," she praised. The cold light of this dagger was very intimidating. It was a treasure that could cut iron like mud. Madam has good eyesight. This is the only dagger in our building. It's a soul-chasing dagger made by a weaponsmithing venerable. This soul-chasing dagger isn't simple. As long as you drip blood on it and recognize it as its owner, this soul-chasing dagger can be hidden in your hand. Moreover, it's incomparably sharp. Even a copper wall will be left with a light scratch. Fengjiu played with it while looking at the dagger and the gorgeous jacket. Seeing that the two didn't seem to match, she asked, "Did you add the jacket on the dagger yourself? It looks too gorgeous and doesn't match the dagger." Chapter 2966. However, if Madam doesn't like this set, you can just buy this soul-chasing dagger. However, this soul-chasing dagger alone costs 200,000 crystals. The man said as he looked at Fengjiu's expression. Hui Lang heard this and exclaimed, "You're robbing us. 200,000 crystals? This is just a broken dagger." This is a dagger refined by a weapon refiner's supremacy. It can't be compared to an ordinary dagger. The man said with a smile, still looking at Fengjiu. He knew that whether he bought it or not, it was still up to her. "Take it first. Let's look at the others," Fengjiu said as she continued to walk inside. Her gaze swept past the weapons and finally landed on a neatly folded black item. She gestured and asked, "What's that?" "That's a defensive soft armor. It's a mid-tier sacred weapon. It's refined from the toughest beast tendons and black spirit rhinoceros skin. It can withstand 3 attacks from a heavenly god. Its defensive power is extremely strong. Moreover, it has the effect of reducing force and reducing damage. It's a treasure that's hard to come by. Show it to me." She gestured. "All right." The man took it out and unfolded it for her to see. He said, "As long as you drip blood on it, the size of this defensive soft armor will change according to your figure." "What's the price?" Hui Lang couldn't help but ask. This is cheaper than the previous dagger because this isn't a treasure refined by a weapon refiner's supremacy. It's the work of a weapon refiner grandmaster. If Madam wants it together, this defensive soft armor can be sold for 20,000 crystals. Take it. We'll settle the bill together later." Fengjiu said and gestured for him to take it. "All right, Madam, let's look at the others. We also have things like boots and..." The man said as he brought out the items for her to see. However, looking at those items, Fengjiu didn't have much interest. In the end, she only bought these 2 items. After settling the bill, she passed these 2 items to Ling Shuang. "Drip blood on it and let's see." She gestured and hugged little Hao, who was looking around in her arms. Ling Shuang was stunned. "Master, this is for me." "Yes, keep it for self-defense," Fengjiu replied. "But, it's so expensive." She thought that her master was buying it, but she didn't expect that it was for her. "It's fine, take it." As she spoke, she gestured for her. Seeing Master Ling Shuang's, the dagger disappeared from her hand. With a thought, the dagger, with SSS hand, with 8T looking at this scene, Ling Shuang was slightly surprised. It really became smaller. A smile appeared in her eyes, and she asked again, "Is there a place to change clothes?" This way." The man glanced at Ling Shuang and led her to the side. Not long after, Ling Shuang, who had also put on the soft armor, came back and said, "Master, it really is as he said. It can automatically change size and is very light. I can't feel its weight." "Yes, as long as it's useful." Fengjiu smiled and nodded. She said to the man, "Where's our carriage? Take us to see it." Chapter 2967. The black cloth fell to the ground and the luxurious yet low-key carriage appeared in front of them. Fengjiu looked around the carriage while Hui Lang went inside and opened some mechanisms. She nodded with satisfaction. "Not bad, it's really good. It's good that Madam is satisfied. This carriage cost a lot of money." Hui Lang grinned. "Did you pay for the carriage?" Fengjiu asked. Yes, we can leave after we get the carriage. Hui Lang said. Seeing this, Fengjiu nodded and waved her sleeve. 2 purple gold spirit deer appeared in front of them. Looking at the 2 beautiful spirit deer, Hui Lang's eyes widened. He wanted to touch the spirit deer with curiosity, but the spirit deer took a step back and avoided his hand. At the same time, they cried out. Ah, ha ha ha. Little Hao, who was in Fengjiu's arms, saw the spirit deer and immediately waved his hands excitedly and giggled. Madam, these are the purple gold spirit deer. They're so beautiful. Is Madam going to use them to pull the carriage? Hui Lang asked while looking at the 2 spirit deer. These 2 spirit deer actually didn't let him touch them. Fengjiu smiled. Yes, this carriage will be pulled by them. Put the rope on them. Fengjiu carried little Hao forward and touched the antlers with his little hand. Go. After hearing her words, the 2 spirit deer walked in front of Hui Lang. Hee hee. Hui Lang grinned and took the opportunity to touch the antlers. After the 2 spirit deer were tied, he said, Madam, get in the carriage. Where do you want to go? I'll take you. Wait. A voice came. Hui Lang looked back and saw a few figures walking over. Among them was a beautiful woman in red. When she saw Fengjiu, who was also in red, she frowned. At this time, Fengjiu's back was facing them. She didn't turn back to look at the voice behind her. Instead, she carried little Hao and stepped on a small stool to get into the carriage and sat inside. Ling Shuang also got into the carriage, but he sat outside and didn't go in. The people who arrived were immediately attracted by the 2 purple gold spirit deer. Seeing the 2 rare purple gold spirit deer become spirit beasts to pull the carriage, they couldn't help but feel a little pained. These are extremely precious purple gold spirit deer. Using them to pull a carriage. What a waste. A man shook his head and sighed. His eyes were glued to the 2 violet gold spirit deer. I've never heard of purple gold spirit deer in 4 City. Could they be from outside? Another man in embroidered clothes said. When he wanted to touch the deer's antlers, the purple gold spirit deer snorted and avoided him. The man in embroidered clothes was startled and laughed. Interesting. I like it. Pfft. These are purple gold spirit deer. Who doesn't like them? The other 2 people said. At this time, the beautiful woman in red glanced at them and said, Since you like them, why don't you let the owner sell these 2 spirit deer to us? Grey Wolf, who was holding the leash, was slightly stunned when he heard this. He suspiciously sized up the beautiful woman in red. Because his gaze was too blatant, the woman in red coldly snorted and unhappily asked, What are you looking at? Chapter 2968. How dare you? The beautiful woman in red was enraged. With a wave of her hand, a soft whip lashed out at Hui Lang. Hui Lang was about to retaliate when he saw another whip wrap around the woman's whip. The 2 whips lashed at each other, neither giving way to the other. He turned around and saw that it was Ling Shuang who had made the move. With a cheeky smile, he said excitedly, Ling Shuang, you actually protected me. Fengjiu's lips curled into a smile when he heard this from inside the carriage. Why was Hui Lang so indecent? How could he still be in the mood to tease Ling Shuang when he was already in a fight? Ling Shuang glanced at him but did not say anything. Instead, he tightened his grip on the whip and flung the woman's whip away. Because of the force, the woman was also pushed back a few steps before she could steady herself. Before she could speak, Ling Shuang asked coldly, What are you doing? Did you just buy a soul-chasing dagger? The beautiful woman asked. She stared at Ling Shuang and felt a little annoyed. Her whip was actually flung away by such a woman. Moreover, the whip in her hand did not seem to be inferior to hers. Ling Shuang glanced at her and then looked at the man who had been introducing the weapons to them. He said coldly, is this how you handle things? The man vaguely guessed the identity of Feng Jiao and the others, so he didn't dare to be careless. When he saw the woman in tight black clothes staring at him, he hurriedly said, "We didn't call them here." As he spoke, he looked at the brocade-clad people and said, "Young masters and young mistresses, your weapons have already been bought. If you continue to act like this, I'm afraid you will be blacklisted by our foundry." The beautiful woman clenched her teeth and stared at the woman in red sitting in the carriage without saying a word. However, now that the carriage door was closed, she could not see what the person inside looked like. She did not want to leave like this, but with one look, she knew that these people did not lack crystal stones. She had no other choice but to retreat to the side with her whip. Meanwhile, a man in luxurious clothes at the side stared at the two violet gold spirit deer for a few moments before he turned to look at Ling Shuang and asked, "Miss, may I ask if we can buy some antler powder from you?" Ling Shuang put away his whip and returned to his horse. He sat down and said to Hui Lang, "Let's go." "Okay." Grey Wolf answered, then jumped onto the carriage and drove the two purple gold spirit deer away. That man still wanted to say something, but the man in the building who couldn't stand it stepped forward and said, "Young masters, it's best if you don't provoke them. These people aren't ordinary people." Hearing this, the man in luxurious clothes turned to the man and asked, "What do you mean? You are not from here, right?" The man in the building asked with a smile. The man in luxurious clothes smiled, "That's right. We just arrived here yesterday. We plan to celebrate my uncle's birthday." "Oh. Young masters and young mistresses, you have an extraordinary bearing. Presumably, your uncle is also a person of importance in the city?" the man said with a smile and stared at them. Hearing this, the man in luxurious clothes smiled, "My uncle is the head of the Jiang family, one of the 8 great families in Foursquare City." Chapter 2969. They looked at each other and asked, "What's the meaning of this?" Why did they feel that this person's smile was somewhat ambiguous? "Hee, you'll know when you make a trip to the Jiang family. I won't say much. I have to go back and greet the guests." "Excuse me." He smiled, cupped his hands in salute, and then turned to leave. Who was that madam? Perhaps the ordinary people in the city didn't know, but the various forces knew. They probably already told their disciples to be careful not to provoke her when they went out. These people actually dared to snatch something from them. Were they tired of living? Looking at this scene, the man in luxurious clothes pondered and said, "How about this? I'll make a trip to the Jiang family first. Don't you want to make a trip to the main family? Then let's make an appointment to meet in the evening." Seeing this, the others nodded. Seeing that the carriage wasn't something that ordinary people could afford, and the words of the man in the building made them feel somewhat uneasy. They were afraid that they would accidentally offend a powerful person. At that time, it would be too late for regrets. After they left, they went to their respective main families. Apart from the man in luxurious clothes who came to celebrate his uncle's birthday, the others were disciples of some of the city's branch families. This time, they also came with a mission. After they left, the man in the building also went inside and told the steward about receiving the Fingzhou. On the other side, 2 purple gold spirit deer were pulling a luxurious and low-key carriage. However, it couldn't be low-key. Almost as soon as it entered the street, everyone's eyes fell on the spirit beast carriage. They had seen carriages and spirit beasts pulling carriages, but it was almost impossible to see such a rare purple gold spirit deer pulling a carriage. Even if someone obtained a spirit beast like the purple gold spirit deer, they would be kept in captivity. How could they be tied with ropes and become spirit beasts pulling carriages? Some people didn't recognize what kind of deer those 2 were, but they saw that the 2 spirit deer were exceptionally beautiful and knew that they were extraordinary. They began to whisper to each other. "What kind of deer are those? Why haven't I seen them before? I've also never seen such beautiful deer." How can these two spirit beasts be so strong to pull that carriage? These are purple gold spirit deer, rare among deer. It's said that the purple gold spirit deer's entire body is a treasure. The antler powder scraped from the antlers is a holy antidote, not to mention the deer blood. Ah! Purple gold spirit deer. These are purple gold spirit deer. Aren't they very precious? How can they be used to pull carriages? Someone exclaimed with an expression of disbelief. Some people's eyes lit up when they heard that the violet gold spirit deer were full of treasures. They stared at the two adult violet gold spirit deer until they heard another low voice. Hee hee, you guys don't know. The person sitting in this car is no ordinary person. Hearing this, many people looked over and asked, "What do you mean?" Or, he didn't even see a shadow of a person. "This old man won't tell you," the old man said while stroking his beard. He glanced at them and didn't speak. "I think you don't know. You're pretending to be mysterious." Chapter 2970. Grey Wolf hurriedly ordered the rope in his hand to stop the car. He looked at the woman who was charging towards the deer and shouted loudly, "What are you doing? Stop! Don't come close." However, the woman ran even faster because of his words. She rushed forward and tried to grab the antlers with both hands. When the purple gold spirit deer saw this, it lifted a hoof and kicked the woman several meters away. It didn't dare to use too much strength because its master had told it not to kill. It only let people get away from them. Ah! The woman screamed exaggeratedly. She fell to the ground and cried, "Murder! Murder!" Hui Lang stared. Before he could praise the spirit deer for its agility, he heard the woman scream exaggeratedly. She didn't stand up, but crawled on the ground and blocked the middle of the street, as if she wouldn't let them leave. Ling Shuang glanced at her, pursed his lips, and didn't say anything. Hui Lang handed the rope to Ling Shuang and got off the carriage. He walked towards the woman and shouted, "Hey! What are you screaming for? What are you doing blocking the street? The spirit deer kicked me. I'm seriously injured and can't get up. You have to compensate me, compensate me." Before she finished, Hui Lang interrupted her. "Compensate you?" Hui Lang looked at the woman with a startled expression. It was clearly the woman who rushed forward. The spirit deer was protecting itself. How could it deliberately kick her? "No, compensate me for the spirit deer's antler powder," the woman quickly said, then lay on the ground and wailed again. The surrounding people looked at this scene and couldn't help but be dumbfounded. What a talent! She actually went up to extort. Wasn't she too bold? Did she even know who was sitting in the spirit beast carriage? Hearing the woman's words, Hui Lang couldn't help but laugh with his hands on his hips. "Spirit deer's antler powder. Is there something wrong with your head?" Seeing this, the woman immediately shouted at the top of her lungs, "Io, someone's dying. I'm dying." Ah! A mournful scream suddenly rang out in this bustling street. A smear of blood splashed out, causing the hearts of the surrounding people who were watching the show to tighten. The smiles on their faces disappeared. They swallowed their saliva and watched as the man with his hands on his hips pulled out his sword and sliced off one of the ears of the woman who was screaming on the ground. At the same time the ear flew out, a shrill scream rang out. The blood splattered all over the ground, causing them to involuntarily shiver. That was because the man with the sword was laughing just a moment ago, but in the next moment, he was like a god of death. His entire body emitted a fierce and cold-killing intent. The ruthlessness in his body shot out from his eyes as he stared at the woman, causing others to feel that if he were to swing his sword, it would definitely be aimed at the woman's throat. "Shout again, and I'll cut off your hand," Hui Lang said coldly, his cold gaze carrying a trace of bloodthirst as he stared at the woman on the ground. When the woman heard this and saw the man's expression, she was so shocked that her face turned pale. She covered her cut-off ear with one hand and trembled as she climbed up from the ground with the other, muttering, I won't dare, don't kill me, don't kill me. She was only greedy for a moment and didn't want to lose her life because of this. Chapter 2971. The woman scrambled to her feet and rushed into the crowd to hide, not caring about her sorry state. As for the surrounding people who originally wanted to rob the carriage, after seeing this scene, all of them gave up on their greed. If they didn't have the ability to rob them, they would be the unlucky ones in the end. However, at this time, some people were thinking, just who was sitting in the carriage. They hadn't seen the person in the carriage make a sound. Was there really someone inside? Grey Wolf sheathed his sword and returned to the beast carriage. He drove the beast carriage and continued to move forward. When the people behind saw that they had left, they also began to discuss. It seems like it. The person sitting in the carriage isn't an ordinary person. The old man stroked his beard and stared at the carriage. When the cultivators heard this and saw that the carriage was already far away, they asked, We'll treat you to a drink. Why don't you tell us? When the old man heard this, he said, There's no need to drink, but if there's this. He waved his hand as if he was asking for money. Seeing this, the cultivators looked at each other and each took out 2 gold coins and put them in the old man's hand. Is this enough? Hee, more or less. The old man smiled and gestured for them to go to the corner of the street. He lowered his voice and said to them, Do you know where the 2 purple gold spirit deer came from? The cultivators looked at each other and shook their heads, We don't know. Why would we ask you if we knew? Let me tell you. They were raised by the immortal sex Venerable Muaxayan and are usually treasured. You don't know. The immortal sex Reverend Muaxayan and Reverend CK have acknowledged 2 people as their masters. They are the ones sitting in the carriage. That violet gold spirit deer was a gift from Reverend Muaxayan to his master. Tell me, for someone like that to have designs on them, isn't that courting death? The cultivators couldn't help but be stunned. No way. The masters of the immortal sex Venerable? Are they 2 old monsters that are over 1,000 years old? Wrong. It said that the 2 of them have godlike appearances, outstanding temperament, and terrifying strength, and... The old man stroked his beard and smiled, then looked at them again. And what? Tell us. A few cultivators said anxiously. Their appetites had been whetted, but this old man was tormenting them. I've already told you who the person in the carriage is. What I'm going to tell you next is another piece of news. Do you want to hear it? The old man asked with a smile. Hearing these words and seeing the old man's appearance, the few of them glared at him and each took out 2 gold coins and handed them to him. All right, hurry up and tell us. Don't be too greedy. The old man weighed the gold coins in his hand and said with a smile, Also, something happened in the Colosseum of Sky City a few days ago. It was the Jiang family who provoked those 2 people. Guess what happened in the end? Jiang clan. One of the 8 great clans of Four Corner City. Several people asked in astonishment. That's right. The eldest young master of the Jiang family's second branch offended those 2. In the end, he lost 300,000 crystal stones, 10,000-year-old spiritual herbs, and 2 sacred artifact-level treasures. It is said that after returning, the eldest young master of the second branch, the Jiang family's grand elder, and third master Jiang were all sent to the punishment hall. They are still recuperating in bed these days. Chapter 2972. The old man laughed and said mysteriously, I just know. As he spoke, he waved his hand and turned to leave. On the other side, Hui Lang stopped the spirit beast carriage by the side of the road. Because Fengjiu was no longer in the mood to get off the carriage to walk around, she only told Ling Lang to go to the shop to buy some things back, while she carried the child and rested in the carriage. The interior of the carriage was very spacious, and there were also some mechanisms and a soft couch to rest on, so no matter how long she sat, she would not feel tired. Call mother. Come, call mother. She held the child's hands and taught him how to call people. Yeah, he. The little guy was drooling and smacking his lips, but no one knew what he was saying. They only knew that he was very happy and giggling. Mother, come, call mother. Fengjiu continued to teach as she took out a small handkerchief to wipe the saliva from the corner of his mouth. Sitting outside and listening to her teaching the little master how to call his mother, he could not help but smile. Hui Lang thought, if only the ghost doctor and his master had a child of their own. Although little Hao was cute, he was not of their blood after all. Who knew when he would be able to hold their child? No, I don't want to go. Help, help. Suddenly, a cry came from outside. Fengjiu, who was in the car, paused for a moment. The sound was still some distance away from them, so it shouldn't be directed at them. Therefore, she continued to play with the child. Hui Lang, who was sitting in the carriage, looked in front curiously and saw that something seemed to have happened. There was a faint crying sound, so he looked around and saw the surrounding people disperse. A beautiful woman ran out crying, followed by a few men chasing after her. The men rushed forward and surrounded the woman. One of them cursed a few times, then raised his hand and slapped the beautiful woman. The force was so strong that the woman fell to the ground. Hearing the loud slap, Hui Lang frowned. He didn't like hitting women. What kind of man was a man who hit women? The woman's face was swollen and she was sobbing on the ground. Before she could stand up, one of the men carried her up. Who told you to run? Run again if you have the guts. If you dare to run again, I'll break your legs. The man scolded fiercely. He carried the crying woman and was about to leave. However, due to the woman's crying and the man's cursing, little Hao, who was playing, was frightened. The little fellow was startled and began to cry. Fengjiu hurriedly picked up the child and comforted him softly. Be good, little darling. It's okay. It's okay. Don't be afraid. Mother is here. She softly coaxed him, and the little fellow gradually stopped crying in her arms. He only blinked his beautiful watery eyes and stared at her. He looked so adorable that Fengjiu couldn't help but lower his head and kiss his cheek. Don't be afraid. Mother is here. Mother is with little Hao. The little fellow in her arms seemed to have understood her words. A pair of small hands tightly grasped her clothes and rubbed against her chest. He listened to her heartbeat and calmed down. Chapter 2973. The man felt the pain and loosened his grip, throwing the woman to the ground. The crying woman hurriedly got up and fled into the crowd. The other men wanted to chase after her, but they all bent their knees in pain. With this delay, the woman slipped into the crowd and disappeared without a trace. Damn it! Who did this? The men stood up and shouted angrily. They glanced around and saw that the people surrounding them had retreated. Then, they looked towards Hui Lang. However, when the leader saw that the carriage was pulled by two outrageously beautiful spirit deer, he couldn't help but take another look at the luxurious spirit beast carriage. However, he didn't dare to go forward and ask. Instead, he shouted to the other men, quickly chase after her. Bring her back. After watching those people leave, Hui Lang scratched his head. Was it the ghost doctor? However, why did the ghost doctor save that woman? Not long after, the Leng Shuang returned with the goods and said, Mistress, I've bought everything. I heard that this pastry shop in the city has many varieties of pastries and that they taste good. I bought some for Mistress to try. Hearing this, Fengjiu said, Bring them in. Yes. The Leng Shuang replied. After opening the carriage door, he lifted the curtain and walked in. He took out the pastries from his chinquan bag and placed them on the small table inside. Hui Lang, let's go back, Feng Zhou said. Okay. Hui Lang replied and rode the 2 purple gold spirit deer back. However, at this time, an old man walked out with a smile. He followed the spirit beast carriage to the left and asked, Mistress, do you need a steward? I recommend myself. Feng Zhou, who was eating pastries in the carriage, raised her eyebrows when she heard this. She handed the child to the Ling Shuang and lifted the curtain to look outside. She saw an inconspicuous old man in gray walking beside the spirit beast carriage. His pace was relaxed and not slower than the spirit beast carriage. Moreover, he had a smile on his face. Seeing her lift the curtain, he also looked towards her. I don't lack a steward, Feng Zhou said and lowered the curtain. Don't. I don't lack a steward. I can help sweep the floor or serve tea. As long as you take care of my food and shelter, and give me a caddy of spirit wine every day, that's enough. A caddy of spirit wine, I can hire several servants to sweep the floor and serve tea. Feng Nine said leisurely. She ate a piece of pastry and looked at the person outside the curtain. He still didn't fall behind at all. One had to know that the speed of the spirit beast carriage wasn't slow, but this person was leisurely following beside it. It could be seen that he had some skill. However, she could not tell the old man's cultivation level with just a glance. Was he hiding his strength? Who was this person? Why did he recommend himself to be her steward? Mistress, I'm all alone. I've been starving for several days. Please be kind and take me in. You're too old. I'm afraid you can't sweep the floor well. I'm afraid you'll knock over the teacups when I serve tea. What's the use of having you around? Feng Zhou said casually. She leaned on the soft couch and chatted with the old man outside the carriage. Chapter 2974. As the old man spoke, he saw that the people in the spirit beast carriage did not speak, so he continued to talk to himself until they reached Feng Zhou's residence. The door opened, and the flying beast carriage entered, while the old man was locked outside. Sigh, that's it. I've already recommended myself the entire way, but they're still so heartless. The old man shouted outside, talking to himself. After circling the residence once, he squatted in a corner in front of their residence to rest. Master, who's that old man outside? He's squatting in front of our door, and it looks like he doesn't want to leave, Leng Hua said. When the door closed, the old man kept pacing around outside and did not leave. He followed us halfway. I don't know where he came from. Feng Zhou said as he fed how, ignore him. If he can't enter, he'll leave. Seeing this, Leng Hua didn't bother with the old man outside and said, Master, Qingqing is preparing to leave tonight. Luo Yu and the others are planning to go out on a mission tomorrow. Their first mission is a level 2 escort mission. I understand. Feng Zhou responded. After feeding little Hao, he handed him over to Leng Hua and returned to the courtyard to concoct medicine. Night fell. After bidding farewell to her, Bai Qingqing disguised herself and left from the back of the mountain. She left Four Corners City in the middle of the night. As the night deepened, the old man who was squatting outside the mansion slipped into the mansion due to the cold wind and drizzle. He found a place to take shelter from the wind and rain and lay down to rest. No one in the residence noticed his arrival because there was a formation set up here. To enter the residence from outside, one had to pass through the formation first. However, the formation in the residence did not give off any warning, so they did not know that the old man had sneaked in. On the morning of the next day, Leng Hua was patrolling the estate. When he arrived at the outer courtyard and saw the old man lying at the entrance, his pupils constricted slightly. He walked up to the old man and sized him up. At this moment, the old man was still sleeping soundly, and it seemed as if he didn't notice that someone was approaching. How did you come in? Lang Hua asked, staring at the old man. He looked around. The array formation was not touched, the door was not damaged, and the barrier that covered the entire residence was not broken. Then, how did this person come in so quietly? The old man continued to snore as if he did not hear him. He continued to sleep without making a sound or even moving. Seeing this, Lang Hua raised his hand and a wind blade slashed out towards the old man. It was also at this moment that the old man who was sleeping soundly flipped over and leaped up, dodging his attack. At the same time, he rubbed his eyes and looked at Lang Hua with displeasure as he said angrily, "Kid, why don't you know the rules? How can you attack an old man like me? If you hurt an old man like me, I'll stick to you and not leave. How did you come in?" Lang Hua stared at him and asked. To be able to enter their residence without anyone noticing, this old man was not ordinary. He did not treat him as an ordinary old man. "That's how I got in." "How else?" Chapter 2975. "Oh. Is that true?" Fengzhou's voice drifted over. The two men followed the voice and saw Fengzhou, dressed in casual clothes, slowly walking over. "Master." Lang Hua called out. "This old man slept here last night and didn't cause any damage to the surroundings. I don't know how he got in." "Ayaya, what madam? She's just a young and beautiful fairy." The old man narrowed his eyes and smiled as he stared at Fengzhou. He sized up Fengzhou and said, "Why don't you call her Miss instead?" Fengzhou walked over and looked at the old man. "Why aren't you leaving? What are you doing here? You even trespassed into my residence. Do you really want to stay and be my butler? Food, lodging, and wine are all provided." The old man smiled at Fengzhou. "It's a good deal. There are some rules here that cannot be broken. Don't worry, I won't cause trouble." The old man waved his hand. Hearing this, Fengzhou glanced at him and said, "If that's the case, then come with me first." With that, he turned and walked inside. Seeing this, the old man followed. Fengzhou went around the array and came to a training ground inside. He said, "It's early in the morning and I want to stretch my muscles and bones. Why don't you practice with me?" The old man who followed behind him stopped and looked around. His gaze fell on Fengzhou and he said with a smile, "Practice with you. But I can't really go all out." Hearing this, Fengzhou's mouth twitched. He glanced at him speechlessly and listened to him speak in distress. "Tell me, if this old man uses all his strength, you definitely won't be his opponent. But you're this old man's bread and butter. If this old man defeats you, what will you do if you lose face and drive me away?" Fengzhou's eyelids twitched. He said calmly, "I won't. If I give you some face and purposely lose to you, then you might think I'm useless and not let me be your butler. Tell me, wouldn't I be wasting my time?" Fengzhou glanced at him. In the next moment, his figure flashed and his palm struck at the old man. He was so fast that the old man was stunned. He stepped back and easily dodged Fengzhou's attack. He turned and ran. "Don't. Let's talk nicely. Don't get physical." The old man shouted and looked for a place to hide. However, he saw that this place was empty. There was no place to hide even if he wanted to. In a flash, a fist came swinging over. "Ah!" He groaned, covered his eyes, and shouted at Fengzhou, "I'm telling you, don't come here again. If you touch me again, I won't be polite with you. I didn't ask you to be polite with me. If you don't fight back, I won't be merciful." Fengzhou said as he moved and punched again. "Fine. You forced me to do this." The old man shouted angrily. He released the hand covering his eyes and gathered spiritual energy to punch at Fengzhou. Seeing this, Fengzhou curled her lips into a smile. The two of them fought back and forth in the arena. As they fought, she discovered that the old man's strength was unfathomable. After fighting for a while, she felt that his strength should be above hers. Why did such a strong person come to be her butler for no reason? Chapter 2976. His master was no match for that old man. Fengjiu looked at the smiling old man and asked, "Are you really going to stay?" "Yes, I'm going to stay." He chuckled. "I'll guard the door for you. I promise I won't let a fly in." Fengjiu smiled. "You're such a strong person. Wouldn't it be beneath you to guard the door for me?" He waved his hand. No, I have nowhere to go. Your residence is great. You even provide food, lodging, and wine. It's already very good." Fengjiu stared at him for a while before asking, "How should I address you?" Just call me Lao Mei," the old man said with a smile. "Lang Hua, arrange a place for him to stay. Tell him what to pay attention to in our residence," Fengjiu instructed Lang Hua. "Yes," Lang Hua replied. Then, he said to the old man, "Follow me." "Ah, I knew you were a good person. You would definitely take me in." He looked at Fengjiu with a smile and turned to leave with Lang Hua. At the same time, he said cheerfully, "This is great. I finally have a place to stay. I don't have to wander anymore." Fengjiu watched the old man leave until he could no longer see him. Then, he walked out. He couldn't see through this old man, but he was sure of one thing. He wanted to stay here. But, what was he going to do here? Since he couldn't see through him, he might as well wait and see. After a long time, would he not be able to see through him? The old man followed Lang Hua into the inner courtyard. He looked around and when he heard a child's giggling, his eyes moved slightly. He asked with a smile, "Why do I hear a child's voice? Are there children in the residence?" Lang Hua turned to look at him. Seeing the smile on his face and a hint of curiosity, he said, "That's the young master of the residence." Hearing this, the old man didn't ask any more questions. However, when he walked inside, he just happened to see the black-clothed woman walking out with the child in her arms. Ling Shuang looked at the man Lang Hua brought in and asked, "Why is he here?" "Sis, this is Elder Mei." As Lang Hua spoke, he glanced at the old man and said, "This morning, he snuck in by himself and slept at the gate. Master asked him to stay and guard the gate. I'll take him to the courtyard to settle down. I'll come back to find you later." After hearing this, Ling Shuang didn't ask any more questions and nodded. This child is so cute. She's white and chubby and has a likable appearance. She's really cute." The old man took a step forward and stared at little Hao, with an expression of extreme fondness. He asked, "Can I hug him? He's so cute. He must be so soft to hug." Ling Shuang took a step back with the baby in his arms and stared at him warily. "Aren't you going to the yard? Hurry up and go." Seeing this, the old man looked regretful and muttered, "That chubby boy is so interesting. I wanted to hug him and play with him. I can't even touch him." After watching the two of them leave, Ling Shuang carried little Hao into the garden and walked him around. When he saw Fengjiu walking over, he walked up and called out, "Master." Fengjiu reached out to hold little Hao's hand and played with him. He asked, "Did you see Elder Mei?" Chapter 2977. Let's take a look first. "I don't know what he does for a living." Fengjiu smiled and teased Hao. We should be able to tell after a while. But for now, we know that he shouldn't be a threat to us." Hearing her words, Ling Shuang nodded, "Yes, I understand. Take Hao to play." "I'm going back to take a bath and change my clothes," Fengjiu said and kissed the little guy before heading inside. In the courtyard, Ling Hua had already left. Elder Mei sat at the table and drank some water. His eyes were filled with unconcealable excitement. He drank 2 cups of water in the room to calm himself down. Then, he calmed himself down and walked out with a smile on his face. Lang Hua had already told Du Fan and the others about Elder May's stay. Luo Yu and the others could not believe that an old man could be stronger than Fengjiu. Hence, they went to Elder May's courtyard. What do you want? When Elder May, who had just left the hospital, saw the few people blocking the entrance of the hospital, he raised his eyelids and glanced at them. As his gaze swept past them, he had a rough idea of their strength. You're Elder May. We heard from Lang Hua that you're very good at fighting. Since you have nothing to do now, why don't you spar with us? Luo Yu grinned and stared at Elder May. He did not think that this old man was anything special. Are you trying to bully an old man like me with your numbers? Elder May shouted and moved to the side, looking for an opportunity to escape. Why would we do that? We're all from the mansion. We just want to spar with you, Luo Yu said with a smile. That's not good. If the young miss finds out, she'll say that I'm bullying you. If that happens, I won't be able to keep my job. Elder May waved his hand and moved to the side, trying to avoid them. Luo Yu and Du Fan looked at each other and smiled. Why would we? We won't go too far, and it won't hurt your life. Come, we're all family, don't be so restrained. Hearing this, Elder May's gaze flickered. So we're a family now. This old man is all alone. I didn't expect that there would be a time when I have a family. He looked at them and said, all right. Since all of you are treating me, Old May, as a family member, I will naturally follow your wishes and spar with you. However, let's make things clear. If you lose, you can't fall out with me. If we don't fall out, we won't be so immoral. The few of them laughed and signaled with their eyes. A few of them then pounced forward. Only Fan Lin took a few steps back and did not participate in their practice. When Old May saw this, a hint of a smile flashed through his eyes. With a flicker of his body, his fists shot out like shadows, aiming for their faces. Ah! Not my face, not my face. Bang bang bang. Hiss. Ah! For a moment, the sound of fists hitting the ground and the cries of pain resounded in the courtyard, attracting Lang Hua, who was in front, to quickly come over to check what was going on. However, he didn't expect that when he arrived and saw this scene, the corner of his mouth twitched and he couldn't help but smile. Hiss. God damn it. It hurts so much. A few of us can't even land a single hit on him. What a loss. Hiss. My face, is my face swollen? It's swollen, like a pig's head. Chapter 2978. Your makeup looks pretty good. Fengjiu picked up a mouthful of side dishes and said unhurriedly. Master. Luo Yu caressed his swollen face, which had already been applied with medicine, and said, We've embarrassed you. Fengjiu smiled. How could that be? It's not like I'm the one with a swollen face. You guys are the ones who have been painted. The few of them moved their mouths and sighed silently. How could they have known that the old man was really that powerful? If they had known, they wouldn't have gone up to look for a beating. Didn't you guys say that you're going out on a mission tomorrow? You're going with this face. The employer probably won't be at ease. She chuckled and took a sip of wine, but this is also good. It's only right that I get painted. Master, that Elder May is so powerful. Why did he come to our residence? What is he doing here? If you leave him in our residence, will something happen? Luo Yu asked worriedly. Rather than letting him watch from the shadows, it's better to put him in the open. From what I can see, he shouldn't be a threat. You guys don't have to worry about the matters in the residence. Go without worry. Fengjiu glanced at them and said, Be careful when you're outside. Don't be so careless. If something happens, I won't be able to take care of you. Master, don't worry. We know. The few of them said, then we'll go back and apply some medicine. After saying that, they bowed and left. The next morning, the few of them went out, along with Wei Lang. After they left, the residents seemed to have quieted down a lot. Feng Jiu entered the space to cultivate. He only came out at noon and lay on the soft couch in the courtyard, resting with a book covering his face. Lang Hua walked in and called, Master, the city's alchemist guild sent an invitation. Read it. Feng Jiu said lazily. Yes. Lang Hua responded and explained the gist of it to her. He's inviting Mistress to the Alchemist Guild tomorrow afternoon. He said that there's a Pill Master exchange event and he wants to invite Mistress to attend. Reject it, Feng Jiu said faintly. He was not interested at all. Yes. Lang Hua responded and put away the invitation. He then said, the Jiang clan, one of the 8 great clans in the city, sent an invitation. They said that tomorrow is their clan head's birthday and they want to invite Master to their residence. Jiang clan. Under the cover of the book, his lips curled up slightly. This Jiang family is quite interesting. They actually want to invite me to their residence. It's just that I don't have a good impression of the Jiang family, so I don't really want to go. Hearing this, Lang Hua smiled and said, then I'll reject it on behalf of Master. But there is one that Master might be interested in. Oh. What is it? Feng Jiu asked. Hearing him say this, she was somewhat curious. The city's largest auction house, Treasure Heaven Pavilion, will be holding an auction tomorrow. It said that there are many good things. Master, are you interested in taking a look? Feng Jiu removed the book covering his face and said, auction house. Then I can go take a look. You arrange it tomorrow. As he spoke, he paused and asked again, then Elder May has been guarding the entrance all this time. He's been dozing off at the entrance all this time, Lang Hua said. When he thought of Elder May, he was also very puzzled. Why would a person whose strength was even higher than their master be guarding the door at this time? Chapter 2979. It was rare for her to encounter someone stronger than her. It would be a pity if she didn't use this opportunity to practice and improve her combat strength. When Lang Hua saw this, he walked out and called Elder May to the training field. When Elder May heard this, he muttered helplessly, practice again. She can't beat me. It's the same no matter how much she practices. He shook his head and went to the training field. As he said, Feng Jiu couldn't beat him. The two of them practiced for an entire afternoon until Elder May shouted, panting, I can't. If I continue, I'll lose my life. How can an old man like me compete with you young people? I can't. As he spoke, he retreated. I need to go back and rest. As he spoke, he ran away as fast as he could. Feng Jiu smiled. She waved her hands and wiped away the sweat on her face. She felt refreshed. It had been a long time since she had practiced so freely. However, as expected, different levels of strength led to different speeds. Her attacks were always half a beat slower than Elder May's. She couldn't hit him. However, after this kind of training, her body movement and dodging skills had improved. It wasn't like she didn't gain anything. She went to the courtyard, planning to go back and take a bath and change her clothes. After Elder May left, he ran into Lang Hua and the child on his way to the courtyard. When he saw Lang Hua, he stroked his beard and smiled. Lang Hua. You're carrying little Hao out to play again. Ah, this is great. You're not married yet and you're already taking care of a child. You'll be much better at taking care of your own child in the future. When he heard this, Lang Hua glanced at him and asked, what are you doing here again? I'm just about to go back to the courtyard after training with the young miss. I didn't expect to run into you guys. He smiled and narrowed his eyes. His gaze fell on the child and he said, "How did you raise this little guy? He's so chubby. My heart itches when I see him. I really want to carry him over and play with him." Not everyone can hug the little master, Ling Shuang said as he carried the giggling Hao and walked past him. Since you want to go back to the courtyard, then go back quickly. I still have to take the little master to the master's place. I don't have time to chat with you here. All right, go ahead then. He waved his hand and stood in the same spot as he watched them leave. Only when they could no longer be seen did he slowly walk into the courtyard while stroking his beard. It's also a blessing, he said softly, and the smile on his face deepened. However, no one heard what he said, and no one knew what he meant. That night, the Plum Blossom Guardian who was on night watch was patrolling around with his hands clasped behind his back while humming a small tune. When he arrived at the back door, he saw two figures sneaking in. Just as they were about to step into the formation and trigger it, the Plum Blossom Guardian dodged to the side and chopped down with his hand like a knife. In an instant, the Plum Blossom Guardian knocked them unconscious and pulled them up. He pulled down the black cloth covering their faces and looked at them. He laughed in a low voice. You dare to barge into this residence with such little strength. You really don't know what's good for you. He grabbed the unconscious Plum Blossom Guardian's collars and happily dragged them away. He planned to get some rewards from them tomorrow. The next morning, when Fengjiu was about to go out, he saw Elder Mei excitedly dragging two men in black into the courtyard. Chapter 2980. Isn't this part of your duty? Why do you need more wine? Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and glanced at him. Don't forget, who was the one who said that food, lodging, and 500 grams of wine would be taken care of? Even a fly wouldn't be able to fly in. Now, even if someone was caught sneaking in, it would only be your duty. However, adding 500 grams of spirit wine isn't out of the question, Fengjiu said with a smile. Come with me today and be my coachman. I'll give you 500 grams of spirit wine when we get back. Elder Mei's mouth twitched. Half a kilogram of spirit wine would make him a coachman. She was probably the only one who could say something like that. Why didn't she take a look at his strength? How could he be reduced to being a coachman? Thinking of this, he sighed. Fine. I'll be the coachman. When are we leaving? We'll be leaving soon, Fengjiu said. All right, I'll deal with these two thieves first, Elder Mei said as he dragged the two unconscious people out. They left early in the morning. Fengjiu only brought Elder Mei as his coachman. As for Leng Hua, he stayed in the mansion to look after everything. In Four Corner City, the two dazzling purple gold spirit deer had almost become the symbol of Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mo's. Even if very few people in the city were familiar with Xianyuan Mo's, they knew that once the spirit deer carriage came out, it would be either Xianyuan Mo's or Fengjiu sitting inside. They passed through the city and arrived at the Treasure Heaven Pavilion. Fengjiu alighted from the spirit beast carriage and said to Elder Mei, "Wait for me in the carriage." When Elder Mei heard this, he asked in astonishment, "You don't need me to follow you? It wouldn't be good if no one followed you, right?" Fengjiu pursed his lips and smiled. It's only in this building. What could possibly happen? You can just wait in this spirit beast carriage. As he spoke, Fengjiu turned and walked inside. He was welcomed by a servant girl and sat down in the first row. Spirit tea, fruits, and pastries were served. Fengjiu sat in the first row. The left and right seats were still empty. Because it was rather dark inside, she vaguely knew that the people in the first row hadn't arrived yet. She sat diagonally while drinking spirit tea and eating, watching people come in one after another. And the first row was gradually filled with people. Most of the people here today, so they didn't recognize Fengjiu, they only knew that the woman in red was very beautiful in the faint light. Fengjiu didn't care about the surrounding gazes. After all, it was too common, so it became natural. She was thinking that the few things in the auction house were quite good. If she could buy them, then she would buy them. If she couldn't, then she would think of another way. Compared to the lively auction house, on the other side, Luo Yu, who was resting on the side of the road, was holding a mirror to look at his face. When he saw that the swelling had subsided, but there were still some bruises around his eyes, he couldn't help but sigh. I've been walking with this face all this time. Fan Lin smiled at the side. It's already much better. It's just some bruises. At least it's not swollen to the point where you can't see. You're still talking about it. You really don't have the code of brotherhood. We all went up, but you retreated. Luo Yu glanced at Fan Lin's uninjured face and snorted to express his dissatisfaction. Chapter 2981. Hearing this, they didn't say anything else. At that time, Ling Hua had told them, but they didn't believe him. How could such a powerful person like their master lose to an old man? That was why they wanted to give it a try. Who knew that the old man would specifically pick their faces to hit? Who could they blame? They could only blame themselves. The few of them silently took out their rations and ate. At this moment, a middle-aged man who was resting among them gestured to an old man. The old man stood up and walked in front of Du Fan, asking, May I ask, how much longer do we have to rest? Looking at these people with bruises on their faces, they had been scared witless the entire journey. Didn't they say that these people were very powerful? They were even special-class mercenaries from the Mercenary Union. How could they have been beaten to such a state? Were their abilities up to par? Along the way, he didn't even dare to rest in case an accident happened. Let's go, let's go. Let's finish this mission and hurry back. Hui Lang stood up and patted the grass off his body. The others also stood up. Luo Yu walked in front of the old man and patted him on the shoulder, saying, Don't worry, it'll be fine. We'll definitely escort you back safely. The mission they had accepted this time was a level 2 escort mission. The main task was to escort these people back. However, according to what they knew, the middle-aged man seemed to have some kind of treasure on him. They were worried that an accident would happen on the way back, so they spent a large amount of money on a level 2 escort mission. Seeing that they had all stood up, the middle-aged man walked forward and cupped his hands, saying, Everyone, when this Yang safely arrives at the residence, I'll definitely have good wine and good food to thank you all. Please take care of us on this journey. Master Yang, don't worry. Get on the spirit beast carriage. We'll continue our journey and try to reach the next town before nightfall. Du Fan said with a smile. Let him get on the carriage first. All right. The middle-aged man replied and got on the spirit beast carriage with the old man. The remaining 2 guards followed beside the carriage. The one driving the carriage was Guillemot. After entering the beast carriage, the old man waved his hand and set up a soundproof barrier to prevent the people outside from hearing their voices. He said, Master, I feel uneasy letting these people escort us. Look at their faces, they're all beaten up. And that surnamed Luo, I don't know how many times he's taken out his mirror along the way. The old man sighed softly. He was speechless at these strange people. He only knew that these people didn't seem to be very reliable. Could they really escort them home safely? Don't worry, I've specially asked people from the Mercenary Union. They're strong enough to become special-class mercenaries. The middle-aged man said. Although he said that, it was obvious that his heart had been in his throat the entire time. After all, as the old man said, these people didn't seem to be reliable at all. He had never seen a man who would hold a mirror and look at his own face all the way. There was also another man who was holding a fan and looked like a scholar. He was also fanning himself all the way. If they weren't wearing the same black mercenary uniform, he would have mistaken them for scholars. Moreover, he couldn't see through their strength and didn't know what level they were at. Chapter 2982. Yes. The old man replied and removed the soundproof barrier. He bent over and got out of the carriage, sitting beside Guillermo. Little brother, are you tired? Do you want me to drive you? No need. Guillermo said and continued driving the beast carriage. The old man sat at the side and watched. Seeing Luo Yu and the others riding on horses, he asked with a smile, "You are a team of 6. Who is the leader of the mercenary team?" We take turns being the leader. Today I will be the leader, tomorrow he will be the leader." Luo Yu laughed loudly. Hearing this, the old man's mouth twitched. These few people were really casual in their mercenary team. So casual that he almost couldn't continue to ask. Ahem. The old man coughed softly and asked again, "Then how many times have you accepted this mission?" "The first time. You are our first mission as a registered mercenary team." Hui Lang grinned and continued the conversation. Seeing the old man's expression change, he couldn't help but laugh. "You don't have to worry. Although it is our first time as mercenaries, we are much more experienced than other mercenaries." Yes, yes. The old man smiled stiffly and nodded. He almost wanted to go into the carriage and ask his master why he found a group of mercenaries who had never accepted a mission to escort them. This was really risky. "You are registered mercenaries in Four Corner City. That means you are from Four Corner City?" The old man asked again. "No, we just moved here not long ago. Moreover, we are not born to be mercenaries." Luo Yu grinned and said, "We were sent out by my master to gain experience. That is why we formed a mercenary team to accept missions when we have nothing to do." Hearing this, the middle-aged man in the beast carriage couldn't help but be surprised. They actually had a master. And it was their master who sent them out to gain experience. Generally speaking, if they were guards, they should be by their master's side. Why would they be sent out to gain experience? This was really strange. When the old man heard this, he was also surprised. Just as he was about to ask again, the galloping beast suddenly stopped. The old man, who was caught off guard, was almost thrown out. Fortunately, Guillermo reached out and stabilized him before pushing him into the beast carriage behind him. "Go in, don't come out." The old man was instantly pushed inside, causing his expression to change. The middle-aged man in the beast carriage also tensed up at this moment. He pulled open the curtains and looked outside with a grave expression. His pupils constricted when he saw what was happening. There were actually more than 30 men in black. His expression turned solemn as he stared outside. He could feel that in an instant, even the air was filled with a chilling killing intent. Du Fan rode on his horse and waved the fan in his hand. He smiled and said, "This journey has been boring enough. If there wasn't such an ambush, I really don't know what's the point of accepting this mission." "That's right. I've been waiting for a long time, but he only came out now." Luo Yu grinned and rubbed his fists as he stared at the men in black in front. His face was filled with excitement. "Guillermo and Fan Lin, protect the beast carriage. Let us practice with these people." As Luo Yu spoke, he took the lead to leap off the back of his horse and attack the black-clothed men in front of him. Chapter 2983. When the old man in the spirit beast carriage saw this scene, his face was full of astonishment. They didn't even use a weapon to defeat the man in black with a single punch. Just as he was thinking, he saw the few of them step forward. Each of them was in charge of a tight defense, making it impossible for the men in black to break through their defensive perimeter. After watching for a while, the middle-aged man felt relieved. Even if they hadn't dealt with those men, he could see that these people were very strong. Each of them could fight against 10 or even 100 people. Although the attacks of the men in black were swift and fierce, they couldn't do anything to them. The surrounding air was filled with swift and fierce air, and traces of killing intent filled the air. Sitting in the carriage, Master Yang looked at the scholarly Du Fan who was holding a fan. With a wave of the fan in his hand, a swift and fierce air blade shot out. It wasn't inferior to those sharp long swords. Only at this moment did he realize that the seemingly unremarkable fan was actually a weapon. Following the fall of the black-clothed men, the smell of blood in the air began to spread. Screams of agony rang out from the mountain path, causing the heart of the old man in the carriage to tighten. These unruly people were actually so powerful. He had been worried all along the way, but now it seemed that they didn't have to worry anymore. But if these people were so powerful, why did they come here to become mercenaries? Could it be that it was really as they said, that their master had called them out for training? Seeing his men fall one by one, the leader of the men in black clenched his teeth and shouted, "Who are you people? Why are you meddling in other people's business? Do you still need to ask? Don't you see our mercenary badges? We're mercenaries." Hui Lang grinned and pointed at the badge on his arm. Hearing this, the man in black narrowed his eyes and said, "I'll pay 10 times the price. Help me take their lives. Give me the space ring of the middle-aged man, how about it?" When the middle-aged man in the spirit beast carriage heard this, he glanced at Luo Yu and the others and felt relieved. Judging from the way these people handled things, they wouldn't do such a thing. However, when the old man in the spirit beast carriage heard this, his heart tightened. 10 times the price. This was a huge temptation. Would they not be able to resist this temptation and kill them? Nothing. Du Fan said coldly as he waved the fan in his hand. This is our first mission. How can we mess it up? Wouldn't that be destroying his own reputation? Brothers, don't you agree? Ha ha ha. Of course, we're planning to make a name for ourselves. How can we mess it up because of this? Luo Yu flashed forward and snatched the sword from one of the black-robed men. He waved his hand and slashed at the black-robed man. Ah! A miserable cry sounded out as a corpse appeared on the ground, as well as a pool of blood. Seeing this, the leader of the black-clothed men gritted his teeth and gestured, "Retreat." Damn it! Where did they find such perverted escorts? If he continued to fight, he and the rest of his men would all die here. Seeing that the men in black had retreated, the old man in the beast carriage let out a sigh of relief. He looked at them with excitement in his eyes. "I didn't expect you to be so powerful. It seems that we don't have to worry for the rest of the journey." Chapter 2984. When the middle-aged man saw this, he walked out of the carriage and bowed solemnly to them. "Everyone, please accept my bow." "Old Master Yang, there's no need for this." Du Fan extended his hand and did not accept the bow. He only said, "This is what we should do." Since they had accepted this mission, they would escort them safely to their destination. Naturally, nothing would happen on the way. Luo Yu glanced at the corpses on the ground and smiled. Come, let's collect the spoils of war." Before they left, their master had instructed that the spoils of war from the enemies they killed in the future would belong to them. In other words, they did not need to hand over the space rings, Qianquan bags, and other valuables they obtained from the dead people. Although they had obtained quite a lot of valuables in the past, this method of splitting the spoils of war made them look forward to it even more. When the middle-aged man, the old man, and the 2 guards beside the horse saw them keep the Qianquan bags they obtained from the men in black, they could not help but be slightly surprised. Because they did not give any to Guillemot and Fan Lin, who were driving the carriage. When the old man saw this, he could not help but ask curiously, "Are you splitting the spoils of war?" "No, we are getting more for the work we did." Luo Yu smiled and looked at Guillemot and Fan Lin. "Actually, I feel that Master's method of splitting the spoils is quite good. It is not bad. You will be driving the carriage later," Guillemot said. "All right." Luo Yu smiled. After dealing with the corpses, he pulled the horse to the side of the carriage. "Here, you can have it. Let me drive." Hence, after the group was organized, they continued to move forward. After this, Old Master Yang and the old man were already relieved. They thought that they had really profited from this level 2 mission and hired this mercenary group with only 6 people. On the other side, in the auction house, Fengjiu supported her chin with one hand as she watched the auction on the stage. 2 items had already been auctioned, but she did not see anything that caught her interest. As she was thinking, she suddenly felt someone caressing her thigh. She turned her head slightly and glanced at the man sitting next to her. He looked to be about 35 or 36 years old and was looking at her. He smiled apologetically and said, "Sorry, I accidentally touched you." When Fengjiu heard this, the corners of her lips curled up slightly. Her clear eyes fell on him as she said casually, "It's all right." When the man heard this, the smile on his face deepened, and he asked, "How should I address you? Are they from Sifang City?" Fengjiu turned her eyes away and did not look at him again. However, when she heard the voice by her ear, a dark light flashed through her eyes. She reached out her hand towards the small table with the teacups on it. As she waved her sleeve, a fragrant wind filled the air. When the man smelled the fragrance, he couldn't help but take a deep breath. The sound of the auction continued on the stage. Fengjiu watched as the next item was brought up for auction. As the red cloth was lifted, many people below began to discuss it. The man from the auction house introduced the item to the crowd. At this moment, the man sitting next to her rubbed his temples and shook his head. He felt a little listless. Chapter 2985. With the bidding of the auction item on the stage, the man sitting next to Fengjiu also raised his sign and shouted, 2,000 crystal stones. 2,500 crystal stones. 5,000 crystal stones. The man shouted. Hearing this price, many people glanced at him. Seeing that he had increased so much all of a sudden, they couldn't help but pause for a moment. Someone paused for a moment, then added another 500 crystal stones. That person shouted a higher price again. As the price of the crystal stones became higher and higher, the number of people shouting became fewer and fewer. At this moment, the auctioneer on the stage shouted, 50,000 crystal stones going once, 50,000 crystal stones going twice. 70,000. Fengjiu raised his sign and shouted unhurriedly. 75,000. The man shouted again. 100,000. Fengjiu raised his sign leisurely. 110,000. 150,000. 190,000 crystal stones. The man raised his sign again, which made the man waiting on the side a little anxious. He wanted to stop him several times, but he was glared at by the man. 200,000 crystal stones. As soon as Fengjiu's words came out, the crowd went into an uproar. The auction item on the stage was a mid-level defensive artifact. Tens of thousands of crystal stones was already a high price, but he didn't expect it to be called for a price of more than 200,000 crystal stones. This was not a small amount. "Second Master, you can't bid anymore. We only brought 250,000 crystal coins." The man whispered. He was already as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. 250,000. The man shouted again. He only knew that there seemed to be a voice in his mind urging him to buy the auction item. The voice in his mind almost dominated his actions, making him involuntarily follow the voice. Until, when the price was shouted, his eyes were already a little red. But this time, he didn't hear anyone shouting a price. 250,000 crystal stones going once. 250,000 crystal stones going twice. 250,000 crystal stones going thrice. Sold. The third auction item will be won by the seventh buyer. Please go backstage to settle the bill and receive the item. The auctioneer on the stage said, and someone came to ask the man to leave. The man stood up in a daze and followed those people. He didn't recover for a long time until he was taken to the back to collect the crystal stones. His whole body suddenly woke up. He looked at the people around him who were smiling at him. Then, he looked at his bodyguard who was crying. He asked, "What's wrong?" "Second Master, you've spent all 250,000 crystal stones just to buy a mid-grade magic weapon. The blood jade ginseng that we're going to buy this time hasn't been auctioned yet. How are we going to explain this when we return?" The guard asked with a sullen face, looking at him with a hopeful expression, "Second Master, you spent such a high price to buy this thing, do you have other uses for it?" The man was dumbfounded. How was this possible? This master, this is your auction item. Please accept it." The steward of the auction house handed the auction item to him. The man quickly took it and looked at it. He almost fainted. He screamed, "I bought this. How is that possible?" Chapter 2986. How is this possible? How could I spend such a high price on something like this? His face was filled with disbelief as he glared at the guard. "Why didn't you stop me?" "Second Master, I tried to stop you, but you. He wanted to cry but had no tears. He had clearly tried to stop him, but as soon as he did, he glared at him as if he wanted to eat him alive. What else could he do? "But, why did I buy it? I didn't want to buy it at all. Moreover, I bought it at such an expensive price. This. He thought about how the 250,000 crystal stones were given to him by the head of the family to bid for the blood jade ginseng. Now, he hadn't even seen the blood jade ginseng and had already spent all the money. How was he going to explain this when he returned? Just as he was thinking, he suddenly felt a throbbing pain in his chest. His face instantly turned pale and cold sweat seeped out of his forehead. His entire body convulsed and fell to the ground. "Second Master!" The guard cried out in alarm and hurriedly supported him. "Someone come quickly! Someone come quickly!" The steward of the building was about to leave after handing over the items, but when he saw this scene, he hurriedly turned back. "Help him to the back first. We have a doctor in the building." Fingzhou, who was sitting in the first row, looked at the next auction item. Seeing that it was an aged spiritual medicine, he raised his sign and shouted the price. In the end, he won it at the price of 37,000 crystal stones. "Miss Feng, would you like to settle the bill first or later?" The steward asked with a smile and a respectful attitude. His attitude was completely different from the others, causing many people to raise their eyebrows. Who is that person? Why is even the steward of the auction building so polite? A middle-aged man asked a servant girl who was waiting in the building. The servant girl didn't know who that person was, so she only said softly, "I don't know." Hearing this, the middle-aged man was surprised and looked at the person beside him. "Brother Lin, do you know her?" "Haha, of course. In Square City, there's no one who doesn't know her," the other middle-aged man said with a smile. Hearing this, the middle-aged man was even more curious. "Oh. What do you mean? Could it be that she has a great background?" "That is indeed the case." Another person said, "And it's extraordinary. When the auction is over, come to my place for a few drinks and I'll tell you about it slowly." "That's great. I haven't paid Brother Lin a visit since I came to Four Corner City." The two of them chatted as they looked at the items on the stage and listened to the voices calling out bids. Soon, the middle-aged man from before noticed that as long as the woman in red called out a price, most of the people in Four Corner City wouldn't call out a price. Those who would call out bids were people from other places. However, in the end, they were unable to outbid the woman in red because no one knew if the woman in red would suddenly stop bidding after bidding a high price. After all, The reason why the third item had been auctioned off at such a high price was because of this woman. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been auctioned off at such a high price. Therefore, those people from other places only acted according to their ability and did not dare to force a bid. In the backyard of the auction house, a doctor was diagnosing the convulsing man. After examining the convulsing man for a while, he took a few steps back and came to the table. Chapter 2987. Does your master have heart palpitations? The doctor inquired. Heart palpitations. The guard was startled and shook his head. No. My master has never had heart palpitations before and has never experienced such a situation before. The doctor glanced at him and said, but, based on what you said earlier, your master's heart palpitations were triggered by a huge change in mood. It didn't happen before, so maybe it didn't happen before. This time, it might be because he was affected by something. But, my second master didn't. The guard still wanted to say something but was interrupted by the doctor. Don't you understand? It didn't happen before, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen in his body. The reason why it didn't happen before was because he didn't receive a huge shock. Or maybe, it's because of the huge shock this time. In short, your master's current condition is heart palpitations. The guard was stunned. He thought for a while and asked, then how is my second master now? Is he in danger? When will he wake up? Wake up? That's hard to say. Heart palpitations are usually caused by an external invasion. His mind is restless and his mood fluctuates violently. His condition seems to be quite serious. You should hurry and inform your clan to send someone to bring him back. If you find a famous doctor, he might be able to be treated. If you can't find a famous doctor, I'm afraid he'll be in a coma and never wake up. Hearing this, the guard panicked and hurriedly said, I will immediately inform the clan and ask the doctor to prescribe some medicine for my second master to take and ease his condition. The doctor thought for a while and nodded, all right. As he spoke, he wrote a prescription for him. Take this prescription and get the medicine. Brew a few for him to drink. If he can't drink it, force it down his throat and see how his condition is. Thank you. The guard hurriedly thanked him and sent him out. Turning back, he saw his second master lying on the bed and hurriedly used the sound transmission jade token to report to the clan. On the other side, after Fengjiu paid the crystal stones for the items she bought, the manager who personally received her said, Young Miss Feng, my house's tower master invites you to meet upstairs. Hearing this, Fengjiu raised her brows. Your house's tower master? I don't know him. Young Miss Feng will get to know him when you go up. My house lord said that he has met young Miss Feng before. As the steward spoke, he gestured for her to enter. Seeing this, Fengjiu nodded. All right. He then followed the manager into the building. He went upstairs and entered a private room. He saw a man sitting inside. It was the owner of the slave market. Miss Feng, we meet again. The man smiled and stood up, gesturing to Fengjiu. Fengjiu glanced at him and walked over. So it's young Master Tan. I didn't expect this auction house to be one of your businesses. That's because Miss Feng just happened to come to my business. Speaking of which, this is also fate. He sat down with a smile, poured a cup of wine for Fengjiu, and said, please. Fengjiu raised her wine cup and took a sip. She asked, may I know why your excellency is looking for me? She casually looked around. Chapter 2988. Cooperation. Fengjiu's lips curled up slightly. I don't have anything to cooperate with you in. Miss Feng, don't reject me so quickly. Let me finish. He smiled and looked at her, saying, I know that Miss Feng has an extraordinary background and is quite capable. However, a mere four-corner city is not enough to represent anything. Compared to the strength and cultivation of a heavenly god, I feel that Miss Fang's alchemy skills and the name of alchemy venerable can be used as an opportunity to spread more. He picked up the wine cup and took a sip. Playing with the wine cup in his hand, he said, and my auction house can help Miss Feng spread the name of alchemy venerate and push Miss Feng to a higher level. What does Miss Feng think? Nothing much. Fengjiu drank the wine and said, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. She said lightly, put down the wine cup and stood up. She brushed her robe and walked out. Seeing this, the man stood up and said, let me see you out. Fengjiu stopped and turned her head slightly to look at the man who was striding over. He said with a smile, even if we can't cooperate, we can still be friends. As he said this, he gestured for her to leave and personally saw her out. As she walked out, the man smiled and said, by the way, the person sitting next to Miss Feng just now was diagnosed with heart palpitations. He's still unconscious, but his guard has already informed his family. I don't know him. What's the point of telling me? Fengjiu said lightly. When she came out, she saw Elder May waiting in the spirit deer carriage. She nodded to the person beside her and said, goodbye. Seeing Fengjiu walk away, Elder May's eyes flickered. He said slowly in a low voice, my name is Tan Haoyan. Hearing this, Fengjiu's footsteps paused. However, she did not turn around. Instead, she walked toward the spirit deer carriage. Elder May got down from the spirit deer carriage and glanced at Tan Haoyan. He then moved a small stool for Fengjiu to step on. He chuckled and said, Miss, did you attract another man when you went out? If that person in the mansion saw the way he looked at you, they would probably fight. Fengjiu glanced at him and said, have you met that person in the mansion? Elder May walked into the spirit deer carriage and sat down. Then, he also got on the spirit deer carriage and drove it away. Yes, I've met you two before I entered the mansion, Elder May said with a smile. You two are a good match. But I'm curious, you two haven't consummated your marriage. Feng Jiu was sitting in the car with her eyes closed. When she heard this, she opened her eyes and looked outside. She looked at Elder May through the curtain and said, you're quite nosy. It seems that you have too much free time. Ahem. Elder May coughed lightly and changed the topic. He asked, Miss, did you manage to get anything when you went in? V. Miss, there are a few people following us. Sit tight. I'll speed up and get rid of them, Elder May said as he sped up the spirit deer carriage. Fengjiu said, this is the main street. Don't go too fast. Don't hit people. Slow down and go out of the city. Okay. Elder May said. He slowed down the carriage and went out of the city. When they reached the main street outside the city, he stopped the spirit deer carriage and turned around to ask, Miss, this person is following us. He doesn't seem to be with us. Do you want to come out and take a look? Chapter 2989. The corner of Elder May's mouth twitched. Miss, I don't think I should be responsible for this. Since when did he become her coachman? However, Fengjiu didn't say anything in the carriage. It was as if he had already fallen asleep. At this moment, several masked men jumped out. You in the carriage, come out. They saw that there was only an old coachman in the carriage, and there was only a woman in red in the carriage. Therefore, they didn't take them seriously. Hee, are you foreigners? The old coachman stroked his beard and asked with a smile. When those people heard this, they glared at the old coachman and shouted fiercely, Old man, get out if you don't want to die. Hey, I should be the one saying that to you. Hurry up and leave. You can still live if you leave now. If you don't leave now, it'll be difficult for you to survive later. The old coachman looked at them and shook his head. He sighed softly. Only foreigners would dare to follow her all the way. You must be tired of living. You're courting death. Being lectured by an old man, one of the men was enraged. He held the sword in his hand and stabbed forward. However, who would have thought that the sword would be bounced away with a clang? The blade of the sword was shaken by a force and emitted a sword hum. With a hum, the man holding the sword couldn't even hold it. Clang! The sword in his hand fell to the ground. The man was shocked and took a few steps back. He stared at Meija as if he had seen a ghost. You. Are you leaving or not? If not, I'll send you off. As Meija spoke, she gathered a hidden force in her palm. Just as she was about to attack, the man cried out in alarm and hurriedly retreated with the other masked men. When the two groups of people in the dark saw this, they couldn't help but be stunned. That's it. They thought that those people would snatch the spirit deer carriage and the item that the woman in red bid for. They didn't expect that the old coachman didn't even make a move. Those people ran away. However, how could an old coachman scare them? For a moment, the people in the dark were discussing in low voices. Fengjiu knew that the old coachman had let those people go. His indifferent voice came from the house. Are you afraid that I'm not in enough trouble? Or are you deliberately making enemies for me? I wonder if letting them go like this will cause endless trouble in the future. They probably won't dare to come again, Old May said. Then, he sighed lightly and continued, my strength is too strong. It won't be easy for me to make a move. If others find out, they will say that I'm bullying the young. Hearing this, Fengjiu got down from the spirit deer carriage and walked on the mountain path. He breathed in the fresh air and said, okay, since you said so, I'll show you. Take a look. What are you looking at? The old man asked, slightly startled. Fengjiu didn't say much. She just said to the people hiding in the dark, since you're not leaving, then come out. The two groups of people in the dark were slightly startled. They had followed her from the auction house all the way here, not daring to reveal even the slightest bit of their aura. How did she know? Right now, no matter what, she already knew. There was no point in hiding anymore. Thus, the two groups of people rushed out. As soon as they came out, they attacked Fengjiu with swords in their hands. Someone even shouted, those two deer are purple gold spirit deer. They are also very precious. Chapter 2990. Fengjiu glanced at the fainted crowd and said to Old May, I didn't expect you to be the kind of person who would show mercy. Actually, I just felt that they weren't a threat to us, so I just wanted to teach them a lesson. Old May chuckled. As he spoke, Fengjiu walked forward and squatted down, taking everything from them. Seeing this, the corner of his mouth twitched. You're already so rich, yet you're still robbing others. These people wanted to rob me from the start. If I only knocked them out, wouldn't that be too light of a punishment? Moreover, haven't you heard of the saying, spending money to ward off disaster? Fengjiu said with a calm expression as he plundered the belongings of those people and put them into his space. Old May pursed his lips and said in a low voice, the way I see it, you're more like a bandit. Fengjiu chuckled. Collecting things is my hobby, especially those who offended me. I won't be polite. She paused and looked at him meaningfully. That's why you better not have any bad intentions. Otherwise, you won't be able to ward off disaster with just money. Old May's heart skipped a beat. He stroked his beard and smiled. What bad intentions can I have? Don't think too much. I'm an honest person. As he said that, he heard a series of footsteps approaching them. He turned his head slightly and looked in the direction of the city gate. He saw 30 to 40 cultivators rushing toward them. You're not here for us, right? Old May blinked and asked. What do you think? Fengjiu said casually and glanced at those people. You said you wanted me to take a look. Is this what you meant? You knew they would send people here. Old May frowned as he looked at those people. He felt that human nature was really fickle. He had spared their lives and allowed them to leave. Unexpectedly, they were so reckless as to send people to besiege them. He hadn't come out for many years. Had the world become like this? Fengjiu was already sitting outside the spirit deer carriage. She looked at those people casually, as if she wasn't worried about being besieged. Not to mention her strength, Old May's strength alone was enough to deal with these people. These people had brought people to besiege them not long after. She guessed that they hadn't asked for permission from their superiors. Otherwise, why would they do something so stupid? Tan Haotian had invited her to cooperate and said that he could spread her name as a pill venerate. Actually, it didn't matter to her. She didn't care. What was important was that she could protect those she wanted to protect and do what she wanted to do. That was enough. Ever since they had descended the immortal ascension stairs and arrived here, they had been keeping a high profile in order to quickly gain a foothold in Four Corner City. In less than half a month, the various forces in the city had a certain understanding of them and would not dare to offend them. At the very least, she knew that no one would dare to lay a hand on them as long as they cultivated and settled down in Four Corner City. Only these outsiders who didn't know the situation would rush here to their deaths like this. She didn't think of herself as a good person. She would never show mercy to those who tried to offend her again and again. Chapter 2991. This old man's strength seemed to be very powerful. His previous attack had been repelled by a force, causing him to lose his grip. This old man, could it be that this old man wasn't a coachman? The older man recognized the two spirit beasts pulling the carriage as the rare purple gold spirit deer. He couldn't help but be inwardly shocked. How could someone who owned a purple gold spirit deer be an ordinary person? Had they gotten themselves into big trouble? Thinking of this, he raised his hand and gestured for the people around the beast carriage to step back. At this time, he retracted his arrogance and looked at the woman in red sitting on the spirit deer carriage. He carefully asked, "May I ask how I should address you?" Fengjiu curled her lips and played with her black hair. She glanced at him with a faint smile, but didn't say anything. Seeing this, the man's heart sank and he quickly said, "Today, we have offended you. Please don't blame us. It's because my family's madam has a strange illness and can't see the sun. I heard that only the blood jade ginseng can cure her. We were ordered by the family head to bid for the blood jade ginseng, but we didn't expect. Hearing this, Elder May, who was about to make a move, paused and looked at Fengjiu. Seeing that she didn't give him a signal, he stood still. A strange illness that can't see the sun. Fengjiu twirled the hair in her hand and supported her chin with her other hand. She casually said, "The blood jade ginseng isn't suitable for people with strange illnesses. Moreover, this blood jade ginseng isn't an ordinary medicine. It can't be used for ordinary illnesses." Seeing that she didn't give the order to kill, the older man sighed in relief and said, "We didn't mean to offend you. Please be magnanimous and forgive us this time." Fengjiu glanced at them and said leisurely, "But I was frightened." Hearing this, Elder May, who was stroking his beard, paused and pulled out a few strands of his white beard. He hissed in pain and looked at the strands of beard in his hand with a distressed expression. He didn't have many strands of beard to begin with, and now he pulled out a few more strands. He really felt distressed. Hearing this, the man couldn't recover for a moment. Was he frightened? What did she mean? What was she trying to do? Seeing the man standing there in a daze, Old May coughed lightly and gestured to the man. The man reacted instantly and said to the people behind him, "Quick! Take off all the chinkuan bags from your waist." Everyone was slightly startled when they heard this, but they still took out their chinkuan bags and handed them over. The man collected everyone's chinkuan pouches and handed them over. This is just a small token of our appreciation. Although it's a small token of respect, it also represents our apologies. Please accept it on our behalf, Senior. As he spoke, he looked at Fengjiu eagerly. This should be enough, right? Let's go. Fengjiu said and let them leave. The man immediately let out a sigh of relief. After thanking her, he hurriedly left with his men. After walking for a distance, he heard someone ask, "Why did you give her our Chinkun bags?" As the voices gradually faded away, Elder May turned around and looked at Fengjiu with a smile. If you say that you're not a bandit, no one will believe you. Fengjiu glanced at him from the corner of his eyes. Bring them over. Young mistress, do you want to split them equally? If not, you can take 60% and I can take 40%. If not, you can take 70% and I can take 30%, Elder May said as he walked forward with the Chinkun pouches.